Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me share. I love to speak as a form of service and carrying the message. I know it helped me so much when I was a newcomer to listen to people's stories and get experience, strength, and hope. And uh, I'll just tell you shortly how I found your meeting in an indirect way. And also, I go to the Durbanville one too after this. I actually, months ago, I put in the wrong Zoom ID number and I expected to go somewhere else. And I ended up in a waiting room with a guy who was waiting to go into his AA meeting in Cape Town. And I'm like, where did I end up? And he goes, oh, you're in South Africa. Where are you? And I said, I'm from Arizona. And we actually had a conversation for 15 minutes while he was waiting to get into his meeting. And he told me about the website to um, go to an Al-Anon meeting in South Africa. So, wow, it's an incredible God thing to end up here and get to know you guys, and I'm so happy. Um, so my story begins. Well, first of all, I like to preface my story with something that happened when I was somewhat of a newcomer in the program. I had a neighbor next door who would their dogs barked. They had a dog that barked all the time, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I found a birdhouse that you can buy, and it emits a high pitched sound to deter the dog from barking. And it's an interesting piece of technology. It looks like a birdhouse on the outside, but it really is fake. So one time the dog was barking at like in the middle of the night, 3 in the morning. So I put the birdhouse on the end of a stick, and because we have a block wall fence, I went outside in the middle of the night in my pajamas and I put the birdhouse on the stick and I was waving the stick over the wall at the dog. And I realized, oh my gosh, who is the crazy one in this picture? The dog barking or the woman in her pajamas waving a birdhouse on a stick over a wall? And one of us has 3 years in recovery, and it wasn't the dog. So, um, and why I bring that up is because the birdhouse is such an analogy for my experience in growing up with alcoholism. I grew up in a home, my dad was the drinker. He was very angry, whether sober or drunk, doesn't matter. Oftentimes I'd prefer he was drunk because then he'd pass out and he wouldn't be angry and beating us all. And my mom was the codependent who tried to control everything. And the priority was to keep up a good image. Always keep up the good image and keep the family secret. And so I carried that on as I grew up into my adulthood. So, in a way, our family was like the birdhouse. We looked one way on the outside, but was completely different in the inside. And I also operated in the world like that, where I was looked one way on the outside, but I was manipulating from the inside. And so uh, I I was pretty fake. I was a big fat fake birdhouse going through life, and and that seemed normal to me. That was just normal way of operating. I was We were the first Asian family in a all white neighborhood in a small town in Minnesota, USA, and that was not easy. It was not easy to grow up in that surrounding. There was a lot of bullying for me and my sister and brother and my family because my parents were immigrants from Hong Kong. And It was, but the thing with that made it worse is that I would get bullied at school, and then come home and have to deal with alcoholism. Have to deal with, oh, walking on eggshells. Is dad going to lose his temper today? Am I going to get beaten for this, that, or the other? And it was always this, I describe it as walking in a landmine. If I tiptoe over here, I don't know if I might get blasted. I don't know. The rules change from this day to the next day. Is dad in a good mood, in a bad mood? Do I need to hide? Is it okay to be out around the house? Is it okay to bring my friends over, which usually was, I tried to avoid that because dad was unpredictable with his temper. So it was a very stressful balancing act day to day, kind of living in that survival mode. I was the firstborn female, which was disappointing, I think, because my mom wanted the firstborn son. And after that, 3 years later came my sister. And then after 2 years after that, my brother came, and my mom finally got her son. She was so happy. And the thing is, I feel she was cold to me. She was not affectionate. She wasn't loving. She was very critical. But with my brother, she would kiss him and hug him all the time and just love on him all the time. And I felt very worthless. I felt like I was a burden. I wasn't contributing to the birdhouse image of our family. I wasn't very overachiever or any special talent. My sister was an excellent athlete, so she was very well known in our community as being a very good athlete. And my brother was very overachieving academically, and he was an excellent musician and athlete. And so they kind of contributed to the birdhouse image, but not me. I was pretty much the loser of the family. Not the smartest, not talented. And so I really had some issues with that in finding my place in this high achieving family. My parents were high powered career people. Even though my dad drank, he was very functional. Again, the image, but at home it was a lot of violence and anger. So I dealt with that by going into fantasy. I was very addicted to TV. I would dream about being part of the Brady Bunch. I wanted to. I was very invested in the fairy tale. I wanted the Prince Charming to rescue me from this awful home. I always dreamt about that, and I also had a friend who lived 2 houses away, and I would go stay at her house as much as I could just to stay away from our home, just to escape. And I wanted her family to adopt me, and I wanted to live there with them. And I believe now that those 2 things, having her house to go to and also my indulgence in fantasy, actually kept me alive and kept me from really going into the real darkness of depression or suicidal. Although I had suicidal ideation at the time, all through growing up, I actually didn't follow through with it. I think that fantasy helped me. I think going to my friend's house helped me. My sister wasn't so lucky. She ended up committing suicide at age 16. And to me, it really wasn't a surprise to me. I thought, I want to do it. I mean, living in this house, it seemed like a natural choice for a kid. Um, I was upset with her for a long time because she did it before me. Uh, I was very jealous of her because she got to escape the home and I didn't. She gets to escape all the pain, the depression, and I still have to live with this. Um, I and I couldn't. I felt like I couldn't follow in her footsteps now because I couldn't put my brother through that again. My brother was deeply affected by her suicide, so um, I was resentful that I had to stay alive and try to deal with my own depression and my own um, dark thoughts and so forth. And then I um, went to college. I did party a lot and I did drink a lot. And I never got addicted to alcohol. That was not my addiction. That wasn't my drug. But what it was that progressed over time was this idea of the Prince Charming. So I was constantly seeking male attention, always boy crazy, or always looking for a guy, a man. And I continued to make guy after guy, man after man, my next higher power. They're going to be the ones to love me like I've never been loved. They're the ones who are going to take the pain away for me. And it was, and given my background, you can pretty much guess I didn't pick the healthiest guys. They were not good relationships, uh, very unhealthy. Uh, I put myself in dangerous situations, safety wise. I safety went out the window if a guy paid attention. Yeah, I'll go meet you here. I'll go, whatever. I'll let you into my house and everything. Luckily, nothing really happened. I wasn't raped or killed. And my sponsor says, God was watching out for you. When I told her the stuff that happened, I didn't really realize that. I didn't realize how unsafe I was being with my choices, that how lucky I was that I did not suffer worse demise. I just was going one after the other, trying to find the one who would love me and fill the hole and take away all that pain. And no one can do that. I didn't know that at the time. So, and the thing is that I also sought out male attention. It didn't matter if they were married, if they were in a relationship. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted that drug of the attention. So anyway, during all this time, I'm in and out of therapy, and I'm trying to take care of the depression and heal from all the resentment that I have, yet still going after all these Prince Charmings. And I was in therapy, and someone had talked about Al-Anon. I didn't know what that was, and this person described it to me, and I thought, that sounds like that wouldn't work at all. You mean there's no one in charge of an Al-Anon meeting? There's no licensed psychologist? There's no, professional? It's just a bunch of sick people sitting around? How's that supposed to work? No wonder this program is free. So I was just like, thought that was a horrible idea until I went broke from all the therapy. So then I thought, okay, I'll try this free thing that she talked about, Al-Anon, and I really I really liked my very first meeting because it felt like, oh, I can relate to these people. I can relate. And I didn't care about the steps. I don't want to get a sponsor. Skip all the readings. Just let me vent. Just let me talk. I just want to spew out all my pain. I feel a little better, and then I'll come back next week and do the same thing. But don't waste my time with reading these steps and things. And so, of course, I didn't get a lot out of Al-Anon the first time. I left after 2 years because I found another guy. And this time he's the one. He's going to be the one. So I don't need Al-Anon anymore. And so the first 6 months of this relationship was wonderful, like intoxicatingly wonderful. I was on cloud 9. It was a dream come true. He's the one. And then the next 6 months, it started to go downhill real fast and went into real insanity. And the thing is, I kept thinking, I'm not going to find someone like my dad. If he drinks or if he's angry, no way, I'm crossing the street. But my problem was I kept attracting other adult children of alcoholics, which can be just as crazy without any substance involved. So I don't escape it. And so he broke up with me, and that's when I hit bottom. I didn't even understand it myself. I thought, oh, well, I've been through breakups before. I just go and find another guy. But this time was the end. I was like, the straw broke the camel's back, and I thought, I am unlovable. I'm never going to find someone who's going to love me. It's because of me, because I'm unlovable. So why keep living? And when you make men your higher power and they reject you, there's no hope left. So, I was just hit my bottom, and I pulled out an old phone list from the first time I was in Al-Anon, and I called a woman, and she allowed me to call her for the next several days if I wanted to. And she said, "Are you suicidal?" And I said, "Yes." And so she let me call her for the next few days. I went back to Al-Anon, this time with what I've learned, with the gift of desperation. I am willing. I'll surrender because I can't take this anymore. I will work your steps. I will get a sponsor. What do you want me to do? I will go to 1, 2, 3 meetings a day, which is what I did because I needed that intensive care. I was crying all the time. And, I went to as many meetings as I could. I listened. I shared. And then I asked this woman who had allowed me to call her, I asked her if she would be my sponsor. And she said, "Well, let me pray about it for a month." And I went, "A month? Are you kidding? What? I gotta wait a whole month? You mean I can't ask anyone else until you're done praying about it for a month?" And I thought, okay, all right. I'm willing. So I just kept going to meetings. And a month later, she got back to me and she said, "Okay, I've prayed about it for a month and I am willing to sponsor you, but this is the way I'm sponsored and this is the way I choose to sponsor. We will talk Monday through Friday for at least 30 minutes a day." And I was like, what? I don't want to do that. Oh no, I don't want to talk to someone every day. I've never talked to someone that much. And I thought, if I talk to her every day like that, she's going to get to know me, and then she'll realize what a piece of crap I am and then reject me. Probably just like all the men. And I thought, oh no, I don't know about this. I really wanted to back out, but my people pleasing got the best of me and thought, Well, you made her pray about it for a month. You can't back out now, so I guess you're gonna have to say okay. And I did, and I'm glad I did because I needed that much care in the beginning. I needed to check in with someone every day. Um, so anyway, that's how I got back into Al-Anon. And I'll just say that when I told her all the things that I did, and she was just surprised at how God was protecting me. And I never thought that because I always thought God was a punishing God and he was punishing me. I couldn't believe that he was protecting me. So when I told her all the things I did with guys and everything, she said to me, "Of course you acted that way. You were desperate for love. How else would you have acted?" And by her saying that, that relieved a lot of guilt for me, a lot of guilt. And I could start to forgive myself. Also, when I got to steps 2 and 3, and I really had a hard time with it because I kept, for so long, God was a punishing God. I don't know if I could believe in a loving God. Actually, I did. I believed in a loving God, that he loved all of you, but not me, because I'm unlovable. I've already, decided that and thought that was the fact. But in working with her, we had to start with the qualities of my dog to create a God of my understanding. And I had 2 dogs, a male and a female, and they were unconditional love, they were loyal, they didn't abuse me verbally or physically. These were qualities that I didn't experience with humans in my life, but I was able to start with those qualities and then evolve into creating a God of my understanding. So at this point, I'll switch the talk to talking about the 12 steps. And steps 1, 2, and 3, maybe you've heard that they can be reduced down to I can't, he can, I'll let him. So step 1 is I can't, I'm powerless. Step 2 is he can, because he can restore me to sanity. And step 3 is turning it over, I'll let him. And I have a great story for this. This is a true story. My husband went tubing down the river with his cousin and his sister. The cousin was visiting from New York, and they went down the river in Phoenix. The cousin tipped over in his tube and fell into the water. And that's when they all found out that he couldn't swim. And so my husband had to jump in and try to rescue him. Now, the cousin is bigger than my husband, so he was flailing his arms and everything. I heard this story when my husband came home. Flailing, and he was pulling them both down. They were both going to drown. And my husband told me that he had the thought of, you know what, I'm going to have to punch him in the face in order for him to get knocked out so I can pull him to shore without him fighting me. And I thought, wow, isn't that steps 1, 2, and 3? Like, step 1 is just stop fighting. Just stop flailing my arms. Just go limp. And step 2 is came to believe that someone who can swim can help me, can return me to safety. And then step 3, am I willing to let that person do that for me? And luckily, he didn't drown. He actually had to yell at the cousin and say, you know, you got to stop fighting me. You got to stop. And, life does that to me. Like, I got to get knocked out. It's like I got to get knocked out sometimes so God can, bring me to where I need to be. Like, I had to go down that bottom with that guy and really hit bottom so I would come back to Al-Anon the second time and be willing with the gift of desperation. So that's I think about 1, 2, and 3 with that story. Step 4, I think about my sponsor, because I tried to do step 4 myself. I couldn't. I bought the Blueprint for Progress book and I couldn't do it myself. And the thing I learned is, 1, there's 3 steps before step 4, and 2, don't do it by myself. I need a sponsor to take me through it. And I think of my sponsor as the dog whisperer. I don't know if you know who that is, but it's a dog psychologist who's popular in the USA. And he talks about the little signs that he can sense in dogs, like a twitch of the ear or a curl of the lip. He knows that the dog's brain is going to go into fear and then panic and then attack mode within a second. So what he does is he pokes the dog's neck and he makes a sound. He goes, shh. And what that's supposed to do is interrupt that brain from going down from fear, panic, attack. And I often say my sponsor does that for me. I called her up one time. This is an example. I call her up and I go, hey, my neighbors, they're so stupid. They did this, they did that. And I'm going into fear, and I'll go into panic, and I'll go into attack. And she goes, get your daily reader. And that's her poke in the neck. Psst, get your daily reader. And I'm resisting, and I say, no, it's not going to help me. There's nothing in the Courage to Change about stupid neighbors. And she'll go, shh, go pick up your book. And I'm like, it's not going to help. And she goes, shh, let's read something on detachment. Let's read something on letting go. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I pick up my book, we read it together, we study the reading together, and then my brain has gotten out of that fear, panic, attack mode. And that's what she does. She helps me stop that spiral. And I need that help sometimes. I need to call people. I need to reach out when I'm in that place. Otherwise, I would have committed homicide on my neighbors. So I'm thankful for people in the program that I can call and they can help me get out of that spiral when I'm in reaction mode. Okay, and step 5, there's a question in step 5 in one of our pieces of literature that asks, what is the core belief that causes me grief? And it basically is asking, what is the exact nature of my wrong? And I will say that every time I'm resentful, the exact nature of my wrong is my distorted thought that if he, she, they would act the way I want them to, then I'd be happy. That is probably 90% of my distorted thinking that causes me the most problems in my life. It's that thought. So that's my exact nature of my wrong. That's the core belief that causes me grief, is if she, he, they would behave the way I want, then I would feel okay. The next thought that usually causes me a lot of problems is I'm not blank enough, whether it be good enough, pretty enough, talented enough, rich enough, whatever. That's another core belief that causes me pain. Another one is if I don't do it, No one will. That causes me a lot of pain too. And when I'm having these core beliefs, and when I make decisions based on those beliefs, and then I act on those beliefs, those get me in trouble. So I always have to remember those distorted beliefs. Step 6, there's a great story in Path to Recovery about step 6 being, I don't know if you've read it, about step 6 being the old slippers, the old comfortable familiar slippers. And when it's time to buy new ones, they feel not the same. They gotta be broken in like a new pair of shoes. And that's like step 6. We're gonna, change our character defects and replace them with new behaviors. So it often feels foreign. It often feels weird, but it takes some time. And are we willing to discard our old slippers to break in some new ones? Step 7, humbly ask to have my defects removed. I did have a very difficult time with the word humble. That was a word that my mom used to shame when we were young, especially me, because I would sometimes toot my own horn or say, "Mom, I got an A on this test today," and she would say, "Be humble." It was kind of like, don't bring attention to yourself, have some shame, don't brag. You know, and I think her intention was that you want to keep striving and you can't get comfortable in your achievements or something. I don't know, but I had a very difficult time with that word when it came into program. What the program has taught me is that humble can mean I am right-sized. I'm not a piece of crap, and I'm not God. I'm equal with everyone else. I can be teachable. I'm open to being teachable, and so therefore I can let God do His will with me. The other thing is, when I ask for my character defects to be removed, I want the magic wand technique. I want to go, "God, please remove my impatience," and He'll take His magic wand and go, "Ding! Voila! You're patient now. Go on." And that's not the way it happens. And I'll ask for my patience to be removed, and oftentimes it's God says, "Okay, I have the perfect people to help you work on your impatience. I am going to send you the most annoying people that you don't like to help you, because they will be your best teachers and they will help you so much with your impatience." So yeah, I rather have the magic wand, but the reality is it's a process. It's a long process. Step 8, making a list of those I'd harmed. And one big thing that I got out of step 8 was to put myself on the list, because I hurt myself more than anyone else has hurt me. But I think about all the things I've sacrificed, like my self-care, people pleasing. I care more about what you think, and I will sacrifice myself. And so there's a great saying I heard just last week. It says, "When I stop people pleasing, people stop being pleased." So they often get mad at me because I am not the doormat anymore. So learning to be more of a Hannah pleaser than a people pleaser has helped with my own self-care and in my own recovery. Step 9, making direct amends unless it would injure myself or others. I started my amends, my very first ninth step. I started with the companies that I used to work for back in my 20s. Because I worked in a clothing store, I worked in a bookstore, and I stole from them. And so I wrote out checks with hundreds of dollars and mailed them to these corporate offices. And I wrote a letter explaining why I was mailing them this money, and said, I'm on a spiritual program, and my program teaches me that I need to make amends for what I've done wrong. And when I was employed with you, I stole merchandise. So please take this money. And, part of me was like, oh, maybe they won't cash them. They'll let me off the hook. They don't need the money, but they cashed them. No thank you card for repaying them back after stealing from them 25 years ago. But no, what I've learned is that it's my part to do is I pay the money and I let go of the outcome. I've made direct amends to certain individuals, and I've had to learn to let go of the outcomes of that, because some of the responses were not nice, some were inappropriate, some I was ignored completely, and some were wonderful, like, oh, I totally appreciate that, I didn't even think about that. So the program has taught me that I have to let go of the outcome. I just have to do my part, is make my amends. And with the men that I was with, and those men had a wife or a girlfriend, I never got caught. And I'm so, so thankful that I never got caught, because it's so dangerous. It's a dangerous game to play when you're doing that type of behavior, and people murder people over that kind of thing. And so how am I going to make amends to these women? I don't want to injure them by telling them if they didn't know. So I had to do a living amends. And a living amends says that first of all, I changed my behavior. I don't do that anymore. And my sponsor told me that the way I treat women today in my life, the way I love my women friends and respect them, and my beautiful friendships with women, is my living amends to the women I've hurt. So I'm very grateful for that. Step 10, continue to take the inventory, and when I'm wrong, promptly admit it. I look at this as my daily work. Like I have a chronic disease. It's the Al-Anon disease is my distorted thinking, and the program and the healthy tools is the medicine that I take every day. So do I, keep up with my daily medicine? Do I look at something that I've done and take care of it promptly? So I try to keep that in mind every day. It's like working out. It's like exercising. I had a fitness instructor who she would say, we'd be working really hard and groaning and everything, and she'd say, this is where the magic happens, when it's really hard and you're dying. So we love that. We got her a shirt that says, this is where the magic happens. So sometimes that's the way the program is. I'm working hard, but this is where the magic happens, and it's going to benefit me later, give me healthier spiritual muscles. And 11, conscious contact. This is a really beautiful step for me, because I used to think that I had to pray and say the perfect words, otherwise God would not grant me my prayers if I don't say it eloquently enough. So I used to carry around a book of prayers so I could read them out loud, and that way it wouldn't be wrong. These were eloquently written, and so God would give me what I wanted. And when I was a kid, I was obsessed, surprisingly enough, with a child actor. He was a TV star, and I joined his fan club. I would get his newsletters. I'd get little autographed pictures that teenage girls get and stuff, and I knew everything about him. I knew his favorite color. I knew his birthday. I knew his parents' names. Everything about this TV star. And the thing is, he didn't know me from anybody. But I thought this was a relationship. And the program, or what Step 11 does, is that just because, and this is the way I approached God in the past, I would try to read stories about God or sing songs in church about God. But that doesn't mean we have a relationship. It's just, it's like with this TV star, there's no relationship, there's no conscious contact. So the way I approach God now is like talking to him like I would you guys. I don't come at you and recite a bunch of prayers at you, but I can have a conversation with God. And that's the beauty of it, that I actually feel like I have a personal relationship with my higher power. So, and 12, the spiritual awakenings part. I love this. A lot of the spiritual awakenings don't happen until long after it's happened, and then I can look back. I think about that one boyfriend who broke up with me, and it was the end of the world, and I thought it was the worst thing that could ever happen. And what I realized later is that it was God doing for me what I could not do for myself. I couldn't break up with that guy, so he did it for me. And I think about, if I would have stayed in that relationship, I very well could have stayed in that relationship for the next 40 years, hoping to recapture the first 6 months of it and want that happiness and that euphoria again. I thought it was the worst thing that could happen for me, and that I would have to now go into Al-Anon all alone. And the thing is, it was a good thing I did go back into Al-Anon alone. I think he would have hindered my progress in recovery. I spent the first 3.5 years alone in Al-Anon, which was very good for me. I was able to just focus on me. And then I met the next guy, which is now my husband, and I was able to do the relationship much differently because I had healthier tools. And so anyway, I'll just close with, the first time I went to Al-Anon, it was only about pain relief. I just wanted relief from pain. This time in Al-Anon, I want to have serenity, spirituality, love, peace, growth, all the wonderful things that this program says I can have, which is stated in our literature, if anyone is familiar with From Survival to Recovery, one of our pieces of literature on page 269, it has a list of all the wonderful things that can come from continuing to work this program. And I want to have that joy-filled, healthy, spiritual, loving life that it says I can have, not just some pain relief. So with that, I'll close and just say, keep coming back. This is where the magic happens. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of your meeting. It's such an honor to be with you guys.